into a conversation about Malachi Flynn and the possibilities surrounding his future, because things are looking bleak for Flynn, but the problem is they're not bleak enough, and it's really starting to cost other people their roles. Let me explain. We spoke about this a little bit on Tuesday's stream. We're going to go back to this tier list I have here, where we go through the guaranteed contracts on the Toronto Raptors. So for the roster for the upcoming season, the Raptors can have 15 players plus the 3 guys on two-way deals. All of our two-way deals are done. I doubt they take anybody off their two-way deal to replace him. The problem with what's going on right now is that there's 15 guys in guaranteed contracts, 15 roster spots, other than the two-way guys. Jeff Dowtin is a 16th guy without a guaranteed contract, and he has to take away, to make the roster, he is going to have to take somebody off of their guaranteed contract. Now, what is very annoying about this is that Jeff Dowtin outperformed, outplayed, and got significantly more game time last season than Malachi Flynn. Yet it is Flynn on the guaranteed contract and likely to make the roster, and it is Jeff Dowtin on the non-guaranteed contract, and therefore, being the odd man out here, Jeff Dowtin is the one unlikely to make the roster, despite being, in my opinion, and probably the opinion of everybody watching this video, this stream, we are all of the opinion that Jeff Dowtin is the superior player who we'd rather have on our team, but Malachi Flynn remains. So question marks are kind of coming in. Could Malachi Flynn be on the trade block after all of these Raptors moves? Because I would probably prefer to have Jeff Dowtin on the team. And an article which kind of inspired me to cover this came from Raptors Rapture, written by Mike Luciano for this article. And Malachi Flynn, once again, kind of being prioritized over these other players. And it's kind of annoying here. It all started around this time last year, 10 months ago, when at the start of last season, right before the start of last season, the Raptors picked up Malachi Flynn's 4th year on his contract, keeping him under contract for the upcoming season now. And I was so confused when the Raptors gave Malachi Flynn this contract, because what had the player really done in his career so far to warrant getting the additional security of another contract? Like, he has only ever shot under 30% from the field, low amount of points. When he's out there, he's a liability on defense. The best part of his game is his three-point shot, which has never been consistent. Actually jumped up to 35% last year. But ultimately, was this enough to suggest that we trust him enough to give him another fully guaranteed year on his contract? Because to me, it doesn't. So when we're coming off of a season where Delano Banton's expiring, Jeff Dowtin's expiring, I would have rather had an opportunity to see Delano Banton again. You know, I'll concede, I was pretty out on Delano Banton, but I'd probably rather have Banton on a non-guaranteed deal coming into the preseason rather than Malachi Flynn coming into his guaranteed contract for another year. So I feel like this guaranteed contract is really starting to take up space here, and it's unfortunate that this is the case because it could cost Jeff Dowtin his job. So once again, there's conversations, there's speculation from Raptors fans. Could it be time to move on from Malachi Flynn? But the problem with Malachi Flynn is that, I've laid out the things I don't like about the player. Listen, I was a big advocate at the 2020 NBA draft for the Raptors to select Malachi Flynn. He was very high up on my list. Here is a guy who's a good three-point shooter, was a defensive player of the year in his final year in the Mountain West Conference, was the player of the year in the Mountain West Conference as well, a very good pick-and-roll player. He's going to be working directly under Fred VanVleet and Kyle Lowry, the perfect players to work under in his rookie season, and things really did not go to plan for Malachi Flynn. We've had these little spaces of, hey, maybe, and we're thinking going into the season, it's time for Malachi Flynn to step up in this backup point guard role. We had the rookie season where he underwhelmed, had some good games near the end of the tanking season, but then it was like, okay, Now that Lowry's gone, it's time for Malachi Flynn to step up in this backup point guard slot because we literally don't have a backup point guard. He's got to do it. Didn't do it in his second season. Somehow got rewarded with a fourth-year contract. So now we're like, okay, it's another season where we don't have backup guards. He needs to step up into this backup role. And he was given opportunities to do so, but ultimately he never cashed in on any of those roles and never really wowed people enough really to warrant this spot. Jeff Dowtin, on the other hand, if it wasn't for the cap of 50 games on his two-way contract, here was a player actually getting legitimate game time and contributing to winning basketball. So it is frustrating to me that we're kind of almost forced into giving Malachi Flynn more opportunities than he necessarily deserves. But what we do have with Malachi Flynn now, like I said, a player who thrives in the pick and roll, got to learn how to be more effective defensively at the NBA level, but a pick and roll centric player. There is no better time right now than now for Malachi Flynn to succeed in Toronto. I'm pretty far out on the player, but with a lack of point guard depth, I'm willing to wait and see on another opportunity here for Malachi Flynn. This may be, Mr. Bro saying in chat, disappointed the development staff have very few developmental stories since the championship, right? Very few. Malachi Flynn could have been one of them. So is it on Malachi Flynn? Is it on Nick Nurse? Is it on the development team? I think this year will be telling on all fronts because Nick Nurse is not here. This is do or die maybe for Malachi Flynn's career. I mean, if he has another poor season, that could be it for his NBA career. And he's working specifically with a coach that runs pick and rolls. Darko Rajakovic's teams run the most pick and rolls in the league. For a number of years now, Darko Rajakovic's teams have run the most pick and rolls. So if Malachi Flynn has provided any sort of opportunity, he's going to be running fucking pick and rolls. So this is it for Malachi Flynn. I mean, this is it. If Malachi Flynn wants to carve out an NBA role, this is it. And everything is in place for him to be the backup point guard. Because for a third season in a row, there really is only one NBA level point guard in the team. For the last 2 years, it's been Fred VanVleet. This year, it's Dennis Schroeder. I mean, things are a bit different if Scotty Barnes is playing as the point guard to start games, but still, there's an opportunity open for Malachi Flynn to be a consistent daily contributor to this team. And at this point, it's going to be completely up to him to try and do so. We've seen the talent. I mean, people were going crazy after he dropped 73 points in a Pro-Am event last season. I mean, look, we said at the time on this channel, people agreed in chat, it's Pro-Am. This doesn't mean anything. It's kind of like, hey, we know this guy's talented. Like, we've seen the flashes. We know why we took him 29th overall. We saw the talent. We saw the flashes. The development just hasn't been there. And it really stings looking back that you take Malachi Flynn 29th overall. Desmond Bane goes 30th overall. A little bit after that, Trey Jones gets drafted. So talent was there. The Raptors, we don't know if they missed out on the talent. Clearly they did, but once again, is it on the Raptors? Is it on the coaching? Or is it on the player himself? Ultimately, when you're playing a Nick Nurse, you know what gets game time. Are you going to make yourself a factor defensively, or are you going to hinder this team defensively? Because if you're going to hinder us defensively, Nick Nurse is not going to play you. And 3 full years, more specifically, 2 full years where this team was begging for somebody to step up into the backup point guard role, and he couldn't do it. And a player on a 2-way contract in Jeff Dowtin did it last year, and 2 years ago, it was a 46th overall pick in Delano Banton who did it. And now both of these guys, maybe now, Delano Banton in particular, but possibly now Jeff Dowtin, are going to be sacrificed to keep Malachi Flynn on the roster. And that is just annoying. So Malachi, listen, I've had my harsh words towards Malachi Flynn in the past in this channel. I was a big fan before the draft. And if he's playing well, that makes Raptors better. I want this guy to succeed. I have every hope and wish that he succeeds, but he's going to have to prove me wrong to do it because I don't believe he has what it takes. And I'm surprised the Raptors have not recognized it. So trading him, what value does he have? The only value he has in a trade is that he's an expiring contract, first of all, and that he's salary filler for trade. Other than that, I don't think there's any team looking at Malachi Flynn like they want that talent on their organization. That's a harsh thing to say, but it's the harsh truth of the situation.